brought to you by De Familia Voces, a publishing company. The following is part of a discussion on Writings for an Open Mind, Volume 3. This discussion was filmed on Sunday, September 26, 2021. I hope you enjoy it as much as we did. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voces TV, and thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Adrian Lugo, author of Writings for an Open Mind. Joining me, as usual, is my co-host, Michael Tucci, author and musician. Today, we are going to be discussing 3 of the 9 short stories in Writings for an Open Mind, Volume 3. Joining us for this discussion is a very special guest, Nikki McGee. Nikki was part of our first discussion on tattoos that we did almost a year ago in October of 2020. Hello, Mike. Hello, Nikki. How are you guys?
Doing great. How are you doing, Adrian?
Not too bad.
All right.
The 3 stories that we're going to be discussing today are Se Vende, My Soul, Being Thankful, and Mani Racha, which this is actually in Bengali, so I'm not 100% sure on how to pronounce that. I think I'm close, but yeah, I'm still kind of butchering it. These are the stories that you wanted to discuss, Nikki. Which one would you like to start with?
I would say probably the first one.
Se Vende, My Soul?
Yes.
Okay. What would you like to discuss? Fire away.
I'm trying to get into like what made you rate this? What did you have a dream?
No, it was a conversation that I had at work where I don't remember what the conversation was or how it came about, but I asked the question, what's the difference between selling your soul to God and selling your soul to the devil? Either way, you're selling your soul to get something. And then I came home and my mind just ran in a bunch of different directions and I started writing.
I think it's actually a very good example of nihilism. So basically ending up with like a belief in nothing.
Possibly.
Well, from your aspect of things, I mean, you really are. Would you consider yourself an atheist or just like an agnostic?
Atheist.
Okay, so you get into it. I was raised a Baptist, and that was always dangle over your head, like you're gonna go to hell if you do this or you do that, whatever. And stay away from this. It's the devil in it. My mom even says it now, like we're always under attack. If you feel like as you get up in the morning and you start your day and all this bad stuff happens to you during the day, the devil's attacking you. I'm like, I don't know how to take any of that. I mean,
yeah.
So
mom, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, so it was funny. I can remember because I was brought up Catholic. And when I was in college, I ended up leaving the church. And I would just say that I was at that time, I'm an atheist now, but back at that time, I was just non-denominational. So I still believed in a concept of a supreme being, but just not in codified religion. And I can remember that people would try to scare me. It was always it's like the Baptists, the Pentecostals, a lot of the evangelicals that try to scare people into becoming Christians. And they use the concept of hell and hellfire and brimstone and all this kind of stuff. And I would just look at these people and I'd be like, look, I don't believe in your God. What makes me think I believe in your devil?
Yeah, my mom I think she was raised as a Catholic, and we never went to church or anything, not my mom or my stepdad. I did go to I forget what it was called, but we would go to like Bible class or something in the evenings, and me and my older brother, we did that for a very short time, and I don't really remember any of it. I do remember just that we went to it, but then my stepdad took us out because I think the church was like, I don't know, they were doing something wrong, believe it or not, or they were like ripping people off, believe it or not. But so it was like a very short time that we actually went to this, or CCD, I think it was called.
Yep.
And then my mom started going to church, I think when I was in high school. And as far as I know, she still goes. The last time I spoke with her, which was about, I guess, 5 years ago, almost, or no, somewhere between 3 and 5 years. I forget I can't do the math in my head right now, but she was still going to church. My father is a 7-day Adventist. If he knew how to build bombs, he would. And he is that extreme to where, oh, well, you're an atheist. I can't listen to anything you say. Even if you're telling me what time it is, you have to be wrong because you're an atheist. See, Nikki, can you see the black pane up in the left-hand corner next to Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be where that noise is coming from.
Okay.
I don't know why it's there. I think it's the dinosaur. If you've seen any of my posts on Facebook about the dinosaur.
It's the devil.
I know. He's trying to stop her from talking about this.
Well, I'm pretty sure that dinosaur is real, and which means it'd be possessed.
His stuffed dinosaur.
Is it Barney the dinosaur? What kind of dinosaur are we talking about?
It's apparently you haven't seen my posts. It's a dinosaur cheat toy that I got
like every other week, dude. I can't see anybody's posts. I keep getting thrown in jail.
You must be doing something right.
It's a real tough toy, so it lasts when he chews on it. He doesn't like rip it apart in a few minutes. But he has chewed on it, and so like there's a big chunk of it like that he ripped out. But I keep finding it laying around everywhere, and it's on its feet. It's always standing up on its feet somewheres. It got knocked off the bed, and it was standing next to the bed, looking at the bed on its feet.
What?
Or I saw it on the actually outside my bedroom door one night, where it was looking at the door right there on its feet. I don't know how it keeps ending up on its feet.
So you don't have an axe in the house anywhere, do you?
No.
Good.
No, but I do have a lot of knives in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But anyway, with the religion part, my father is the one who's always going to try and beat you into it. It's like you have to believe in God. God's going to save you. Otherwise you're going to go to hell. You're going to burn. Blah blah blah. I don't think I ever believed in any of it. I tried reading the Bible when I was a kid, but I couldn't get past like the first through Genesis. And then when I stayed in Puerto Rico a few years ago, I read the Bible when I was there, most of it. I started with Revelations and then read the New Testament only because that's the part of the Bible that I had. And then when my father gave me a full Bible, I went through and read the Old Testament. But I only got up to Kings, and then I kind of lost interest. The stories kept repeating themselves, and I was getting bored. But as far as the religion goes, yeah, I do like it. I like the stories behind it. But as far as believing in something as real, that there's a higher being, no.
But if you talk to some of these evangelicals and the people that are Bible thumpers, I don't know how many chapters they got into either, because half of them stay stuck on one.
Right.
My mom actually stopped talking to me about religion because I knew more about it than she did.
That's my point.
So in back in the mid 90s, a friend of mine got me to go to his church, and there was just an absolutely phenomenal human being. Was the pastor, Pastor Wayne Cordero, and eventually I did become a born again Christian. And that church it was a non-denominational church, and they had a Bible reading program to read the Bible cover to cover in 1 year. So it gave you a list every day, read these chapters. And what was nice about it is the New Testament is easier to read than the Old Testament. So what it did was it had you read both at the same time. So you would read like a chapter in the New Testament and a chapter in the Old Testament as you went through. And it was one of the most eye-opening experiences I ever had, because it made me realize that the vast majority of Christians have no idea what's in that book. It's like one of the most mind-blowing things to me is that in the Garden of Eden, in the book of Genesis, the serpent tells the truth and God lies. The serpent tempts Eve and says to her, he offers the apple or the fruit, and she says, we're not allowed to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil because we'll die. And the serpent says, you won't die. God doesn't want you to eat it, because if you do, then you'll become like him with the knowledge of good and evil. And so obviously everyone knows the story. She eats it. She gets Adam to eat it. And then what is God's response? In black and white, God's response isn't, that he kills them. We know they lived and had children, populated the earth. God's response is
so many idiots.
Yeah.
All that inbreeding.
God's response is, they have eaten of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and now they will be like us. It's exactly what it says. And it's like, wait a minute. So God lied, said they would die, they didn't die. The serpent said he doesn't want you to eat it because then you'll become like him. And God's response is, now they'll be like me. I'm like, holy crap. The entire basis of it is a lie.
Like I said, how many of us read it?
Prior to that, when they were first created, though, Adam and Eve were immortal. Once they
that's
disobeyed, they lost their mortality or immortality.
Right.
And now they are going to die.
Right. So that's the argument that Christians use. Well, they did die, but they didn't die. Well, you could make the argument that they died because that the story says that they died because they ate the fruit. But really, when you look at God's reaction, it's unbelievable, because it's exactly what the serpent said. But I mean, there are other things that are absolutely wonderful little gems in that book, like in the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, when Lot has his wife and his 2 daughters, and he tells them, do not turn around and look at the destruction, because you'll turn to a pillar of salt. And of course his wife does, and she turns into a pillar of salt. So it's Lot and his 2 daughters. They go into a cave and they have incestual sex in order to perpetuate the Jewish line, because they were the last of the Jews. But that's wrong. You're not allowed to do that. You're not.
What else are you going to do?
You're talking too much. You tell too much truth now.
It's like there's so many things like that in there that it's like, really? I mean, in a way that makes it fun. There are parts that are fun to read because, Greek myths. Well, during the time of the ancient Greeks, those weren't myths. Those were their religious stories, and they fully believed them 100%. Well, that's the same thing that's going to happen with the Bible and the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita and the other religious books that people.
What did you just say?
Bhagavad Gita. It's one of the four essential books that are the basis for the Hindu religion.
Interesting. It almost sounded like you were saying Inagata Devita.
I know he was going there. I knew he was going there.
Which actually, do you know what he was actually saying in that song?
What?
Bhagavad Gita.
In the Garden of Eden is what he was actually trying to say. But I want to say that there was some kind of like maybe drugs involved and he just couldn't get it out. So I was like just mumbling out about that.
What?
But
and then after
Eden is what the lyrics are.
Then after they recorded the song, they thought it was the greatest 3-minute hit that they ever wrote until they got sober and then realized that they played the exact same thing for 20 minutes.
I always thought, think of Hava Lagila, Hava Lagila.
Hava.
Yes. See, everybody has their own connotations for things.
But now back to the story though. What I found really interesting in the story is the way it starts out. You think it's going to take the line of Dr. Faustus, one of the original stories of somebody selling his soul to the devil and becoming wealthy and influential, and then the devil comes for his soul when he dies. Story by Goethe.
I have the book.
And but you don't take it. You make people think that you're going down that in that direction, but it doesn't go there. It's like, okay, I did this. I signed my soul, and nothing's happening. And this person is frustrated for like the rest of their life because they're not getting all their hopes and dreams, and things aren't going right. And they go down, seemingly spiral down this hole into finally getting to the point of death. But even at the end, it doesn't even say that any sort of devil came to take this person's soul. You just get the solid, red line of
it
death.
Does say, I don't want to give away the ending of the story, but it does say who he was talking to.
Yeah. Well, he finds out from Bob who Bob is.
Yeah. Who yeah. I'm trying to remember how I wrote it.
Yeah. But that's what, so very few people, unless you took a lot of French in school, probably know this author. There's a great French short story writer named Guy de Maupassant. And I believe he wrote in the 19th century or the early 20th century. But he was known for these extremely eccentric short stories that just never go in the way that you think they're going to go. So the one that I remember that we read in high school French class was a story called The String. And it was about this eccentric old man. He lived at the far end of the village, and he was one of those OCD people. he picked up everything that was discarded by somebody because you could possibly use it. So he was already kind of an outcast in the village, but this one day, these kids see him bending over, picking up a string out of the gutter, and all of a sudden, everyone, this whole story is out there about what was this guy picking up. And so people would ask him, what was he picking up? And he was too embarrassed to say that he was picking up a piece of string. And so he just becomes this recluse. And people make fun of him and everybody hates him. And at the end of the story, he dies from it all, from picking up the damn piece of string. So it's like, wait, I didn't think you were going there.
Not that this has anything to do with the story itself, or any, inspiration for it, but I think it was in 2007. I spent a few months with my father in Puerto Rico, and he had me watch this DVD that he got from his pastor at the time, and it was about selling your soul, and all these people who sold their souls to the devil, to get to where they are. Gene Simmons is one of them, and how he comes out on stage dressed as this monster and demon and everything. And I just, I got a kick out of it because I'm actually a fan of Kiss. I questioned my father, it's like you're looking at his appearance, like on the stage, like his stage appearance and all, like with his outfit and everything. Have you ever seen the movie Godzilla? Well, yeah, I've seen it. What do you think of it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Oh, I like it. I like the movie. It's like, well, so does Gene Simmons. Look at his boots. His boots are actually Godzilla. He's a fan of horror films. That's why he got that developed that persona as the demon. Because it's based on horror films. He's a fan of horror films. Of course, he never sings about horror films. It's always about sex. Actually, he does sing the one song. I wouldn't call it a horror film, but God of Thunder, which is, it's not really a horror, but it's not sex either. So yeah, watching this DVD, Elton John is one of them, because he's a homosexual. How else is he going to get famous if he doesn't sell his soul to the devil? And it's just going through this. It's a DVD that somebody created at the church, so you can kind of guess what is going to be in there. And just to be clear, I don't think Elton John sold his soul, to be famous. And I don't think Gene Simmons did either. If he did, Gene Simmons would have had like a hell of a hell of a contract for it. I don't think the devil could afford it. But yeah, Elton John became famous because he is that good. He's that creative. He's that, kind of a person where he can go out there and be successful. It has nothing to do with his sexuality. Or trying to sell a soul because of it. But it was a pretty interesting DVD to watch. And it also talked about like subliminal messaging, so he's showing me like different ads and stuff where it's like, well, yeah, there's subliminal messaging in ads because they want you to buy their product, but they can't exactly just come out and say, hey, buy our product,
Subliminal messaging was actually outlawed sometime a long time ago. So it might have been 50s, 60s, maybe the 70s. But they literally, there was a time where, so the concept of subliminal messaging is that there's actually a message on the screen that flashes for a long enough period of time that the mind can pick up the message, but for a short enough period of time where you cannot tell that the screen changed. So
have you ever seen Fight Club? The movie Fight Club? Have you ever seen the movie Fight Club?
I have. I don't remember it too well, though.
I believe that's the movie. but it's actually talked about in there. There's like a scene where they actually talk about subliminal messaging, like how you're saying, where there'd be like a frame or two in the film strip as
Right.
the movie's playing, and it would be like popcorn. So you get it in your head, like, oh, I could go for some popcorn.
Yeah.
Because you saw a picture of popcorn, but it was so quick that you don't realize that you actually saw
Right.
it.
Right.
I believe that's the movie where you'll see that.
Mhm.
But that watching that DVD and all that my father had, it had nothing to do with this story. But when I think back on it, it's like, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I've asked that question before. I've actually asked my father the question, what's the difference? You've basically sold your soul to God, because you're following everything that you think God wants you to do in order to be saved when you die. You're going to spend eternity with him up in heaven, so what's the difference?
Yeah, especially in taking the only life that you have and living a miserable existence for something that's probably not going to be there in the end.
Do they
Yeah.
think they're miserable though? That's the question. Do they
Well,
realize they're miserable? I don't know. I don't think they do.
What's
Like
that?
I
oh
don't.
no,
I,
no,
think, I don't think
no,
they realize they're miserable though. That's the
no.
thing.
His dad is emaciated.
Yeah, my father's miserable. He hates his life,
Is he?
and he doesn't believe. He's not true to his beliefs. He does not believe in God. He won't admit it, but spending time with him, I realized that yeah, he doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe his own beliefs. Just because I've done everything you've asked me to, and you're supposed to provide for me, you're supposed to take care of me. My life still sucks. So I can't believe this anymore, but I'm going to try to, just in case. Just
Most religious people don't get to that point though. They go to their grave with this belief that
Yep.
if they suffer on earth, they're gonna get these rewards in heaven.
Right. And
Man,
technically, if you honestly think about it, that is a sin. And the reason that is a sin is because, according to Christianity, you're supposed to be good because Jesus wants you to be good. You're not supposed to be good because someone's dangling a thing that you want to win in front of you. So that's greed. So
I have a quick little story about this whole like Christianity is supposed to be good and all, and then we'll move on to the next short story to discuss. When I worked at Land Rover, there was a customer that called, got a price on tires, and we didn't sell tires over the counter. You'd have to get them installed there, but sometimes we would, put them over the counter. But I gave him a price on the tires, and then he wanted a price on brakes. And so I gave him the price and everything. And he said, okay, fine, I'll come in and pick it up. I was like, all right. It's like, well, are you still getting the tires? Because if not, I got to change the quote and all. So he came in and dropped off a check for the total amount of the brakes and the tires. Didn't talk to anybody though. He just dropped off the check, and nobody was smart enough to question like, hey, what is this for? Or do you need the parts or anything? So they just took the check. I don't know who he actually gave it to, but I was told about it. I may have been at lunch, or I was out, doing something. And when I came back, they informed me of it. But the amount on the check was wrong. It wasn't the amount that I gave him for the brakes and the tires. So I wasn't sure what to do with it. And I asked my manager, I asked the my coworker who worked with me on the counter, what should I do? And they both said, cash the check, put it through. I'm not going to cash it physically myself,
yeah.
but I would just hand it in to the cashier. They would close out the ticket. And then when he came in to pick the parts up, we would give him the parts. And I was like, well, that's that's not right. Is like he's given us, or no, they said to keep the check but adjust the price of the parts to match what the check gave us. So we would actually charge him more since he gave us more in the check. And I kind of question that as being like, yeah, that's not really the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like kept the check in my drawer and on my workstation. And then, I talked with my coworker about it and stuff. And then the next day, my coworker came in and thanked me. And I was like, for what? Like, what did I do? He's like, well, it made me think. I thought about, what we discussed yesterday with that check, the customer dropped off and how we told you to just adjust the price, this way that the cost matched the increase of what the check was. And, that's not the right thing to do. So you made me think about that, and thank you. It's like, well, no problem. Anytime as an atheist, I can point out to Christians that they're wrong, I have no problem doing that because they're both Christians. They're both religious.
I don't take that to mean anything. If somebody is leading with that foot, oh, I'm a Christian, I trust me. No. You have 3 strikes. I'll take them away as you mess up. I'm not. You don't start with that with me.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I was gonna say, Adrian, have you ever watched the show Evil? Either of you?
I don't think so.
It's a show that they put on CBS, I guess last year. It's the 2nd season. This story reminded me of a plot of one of the episodes because the whole show is about these 3 people that are put together. One is I think she's a psychologist. The other guy is like I'm going to call him an agnostic and atheist. He doesn't believe. His whole job is to he follows ghost hunters around. He's trying to discount anything they find.
Mm-hmm.
So if they say, "Oh, this ghost did this," and he goes, "No, this is scientific. This is what really happened here."
Yep.
And then the third guy is he's a priest in training. So they're all going around trying to hunt down these stories of like possession and these events that the Catholic Church is trying to say is a miracle. So they're investigating it together. So the psychiatrist is going from like, oh, this person's having like a mental breakdown, maybe, give them pills or and the other guy is like, no, they're doing it. They're doing something weird with the lights, or it's a computer. It's something I can explain. And the priest is though, I think it's really a miracle, and this person's Jesus.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I almost thought you were going to say, and the priest in training, he's just looking for the little kids.
No, but it's weird. They gave him a twist. He was not always religious. He came from a family of like his father is like a polyamorous guy. Yeah, multiple wives, whatever. So he was a sex addict, and then he decided after the woman he was in love with died, he became a priest after that. I'm like, so you see him constantly struggling with this because he has these dreams about sex. It's crazy. This show is insane. But this story put in mind one of the episodes. Like this, your story would be you could send that in and they would use it because
as long as they pay me. I think I know a show you're talking about. I remember seeing something on Netflix that was similar to what you're saying. I didn't watch it, but I saw like a preview or something.
The first season's on Netflix. It was a CBS show. Now it's Paramount Plus, whatever. The guy from Luke Cage is the lead actor in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched the first season. I binged it on Netflix, and I ended up buying a CPS so I could watch it because they made it it's not on the you can't watch it on regular television. It's on the streaming platform now. So
okay.
I got sucked into it because again, these stories are like that. Your story, they weave them all together, and then they study all parts of religion and all different like Greek mythology. They bring all these stories into play, and each one they weave these things into it. It's from that aspect of it, it makes me want to like learn more about that.
So on that note, one of my favorite shows that was very, very well done from the religious historical aspect was Lucifer.
I knew you were going to say that, and I don't like that show. I thought they were jokey.
But there are so many great little twists of phrase in there, like something will happen, and somebody will say something like, "Thank God," and Lucifer would look at him and go, "Why'd you have to bring him into it?" I mean, there's all kinds of
a couple episodes
just little twists like that in there that I was like, oh, that was really good.
It's making me want to watch it now. Maybe I'll give it a shot because I do like the shows with the religious bent, but they're asking questions. They're asking good questions, and they're balancing it all out.
It gets, it gets deeper into it. So like the first season is just Lucifer, but then like Lucifer's brother comes, and then somebody else, like the Archangel Michael or something, and stuff like that. So they make it bigger as it goes along, and yes, it's made to be a dramedy. So it's made to be funny. The characters aren't necessarily that real. But I mean, there's some good character development in his girlfriend or the detective, the woman who's the detective, and her ex-husband, Detective Douche. That's what he calls him.
Oh God.
Thanks, Mike. Now I got to edit this.
That's not a bad word.